New year, new me. This video is supposed to be out a lot earlier, actually all the way in January, near the 1st, but because of a lot of things that came up, I couldn't record any videos or make any videos of any recent. So for this video, I'm making a new persona for me to be represented by, because it's been a while since I've modeled something or made a video on it. So I'm making myself a sketch reference using Adobe Illustrate. For this specific video, I'm gonna make two versions of it. One where I give a basic overview of what I did and what my process is, and the other one is going to just be a silent speed model. Originally, I was going to build out the head vertice by vertice, which is a technique a lot of people do, but it was taking too long and it didn't have the product I wanted, so I went back to the cube method where I build out the head from a cube and do it from there. While making this head sculpt, there was a very large temptation I had of just starting over and keep going and going, which I've done many times while modeling, but for once I've tried a technique called trusting the process, where I just keep adding things to it and hope that for the best, where in this case it actually worked out really nicely. The concept for the eyes was adding a pit into it and then adding another layer over that, which would be the actual scene layer, where it'd be a glass-like material, and I did go through with it in the beginning. For adding the teeth, I did a simple method of just adding a plane and then making it curve around the mouth shape and making the middle part smaller so that it would look like that the teeth are pointing in, and add more details further to make it look like that they're actual teeth without it being separate parts. For the side of the head, I want to add two screw heads where it would have a plus cross shape in the middle, and it took me longer than I wanted it to figure out how to make it. For the hair, originally I was going to make it out of curves, and I did end up making a full head of hair out of curves, and it did look okay, but it ended a little bit more like a clumpy hair than I wanted it to be. I kind of wanted it to be a more natural looking, all kind of connected hair. I tried to fix it by adding more hair areas at the sides of the head, but I ended up just taking another plane and doing the vertice tactic, where you can just build off of one vertice, and I just traced the outline of the hair so I can get the correct shape, and from there I copied the side of it and continued building off so that the hair would look like it was connected to the other strand and not like it was all clumpy. The hair did end up looking a bit silky or more smooth than I wanted to, so I tried a few ways to make it look like that there's strands of hair instead of just one consecutive thing. And in the beginning, I just copied over one of the hair strands and made it its own thing, but it didn't work, and I ended up extruding parts of the hair out to make it look like different parts. I did go a bit overboard, and I did have to go back and delete some of the hair strands to make my hair look less messy, and I added a little twig on the top. For the neck, I decided I wanted to add a ball joint base that connected the head to the neck part. And instead of using a sphere, I used a better sphere, which is a cube. After connecting the cube to another base, I started with the weird bendy mechanical part, where there are the flexible parts in the middle. And I ended up doing it in a way so that it's easier for me to rig later on instead of having to go back and fix it. And instead of stalling and adding more details to the face, I went right into making the torso so that I did not struggle later on with it. And I do think that I'm getting better with making the torso itself. Originally, I made 3 separate layers, which would have its own piece of cloth so that I could remove one of them, but since only the outside is going to be seen, I didn't end up adding the arms for the shirt under it, or the dress shirt under it. If it isn't clear in the sketch, what is around the base of the neck is a hood, and I haven't really ever done a sweater or a jacket before that had a hood, and it was very unfamiliar with me, and it kind of still doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as poofy as I made it in the drawing, but I think for my first time doing it, it looked pretty well. And for making the hips, there was someone that gave me a helpful tip on a past video on how to make good hips for the model to base the legs off of, and they turned out really, really well. All of the bending parts, I ended up making a mirror modifier so that when I rig it, I don't have to copy the weight paint over or struggle a bunch, because I realized that the symmetry tool wasn't working very well. I think this is the first time in a model that I've gotten a shoe that I actually really like and didn't restart a million times to get it right. And the boot turned out really, really well. I could have added laces, but I kind of forgot about it at the time when I recorded this part of the video. And I can, and I probably will go back to edit it so it's there. Same thing with the drawstrings, I pushed it off to the side and I kind of forgot about it. The original plan for the torso was to have 8 pistons, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom, work all together to move the torso a bit. The reason why I didn't really go with this is because that it kind of didn't work too well. It would move around a lot, and before I started extensively researching how pneumatic pistons work or how they were built, I didn't know that there was a bevel on the part that would hold the piston in place, and so I went with something completely different. I kind of made up this part that would work as a servo at the base that would turn it left and right, and then there were two pistons that pushed it forward and backward so that it would move. My original idea to make it turn left and right was to add a piston where it would move it left and right. For the hands, I had an original idea where it would just be the 3 slender-like fingers, and I didn't want to do that because in the drawing I did give myself 4 fingers, and I thought I would stay true to the reference that I made myself and do 5 fingers. They were still going to be slender-like, but they would definitely be 5 fingers. After making the hands, I decided that I wanted to make the arms and other limbs as well, so that if I wanted to make more clothing, I wouldn't have to make it look like that there are arms under it, and have a lot of trouble then, and just give myself an easier go by making all of the limbs now rather than later. I would have made feet, but I don't know how to make feet for the model, so I just ended up not, and moved directly on to rigging the model so that I can animate it and give it a set of animations. I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out how to make the pistons move, and I've done it before, but I just didn't remember how. And I had to go back, watch that video, and then come back, and it didn't end up working the first time, so I had to do something else and hoped that worked. And it kind of did, but also didn't really work at all. For the eye rig, I set it up like usual, how I usually would make the eye rig and how I have made the eye rig in past videos, but I kind of did it differently that time so that it could move around on a 2D plane. For the fingers, I used a technique that I ended up learning on one of the models I did not record myself making, where you can change the type of, I'm going to call it magnet or magnetism for the model, and I could move it where the vertice that I selected to, and I just moved it to that axis so that it would bend exactly at that point. I struggled a bit with placing the thumb, but it didn't take me that long to finish placing it there. For the neck, I used a similar technique that I've used before, where I made a rotation chain, so I only need to move the bottom bone, and it would move the rest of the neck along. And there is something new that I learned that I'm using for the torso, which is limit rotation, where I can only bend or rotate the bone in a certain way on a certain axis, but also make it only go so far. In this case, I only used it for the limiting what axis can go on, and for the eye, I ended up just using a simple shrink wrap modifier. I similarly use the rotation chain technique for the fingers because a lot of models do have that, so they don't have to animate every single finger bending. What I meant by I went through a lot of versions for the piston, this is one of them versions that I was talking about, and I did go through 5 different versions. Some of them I cut out of the video because there was too much footage to make this a decently long sized video, and I did end up adding an extra part to the torso part where it bends so that it wasn't directly connected to the end and would bend correctly without having to redesign the entire piston system. I added bones for the hair so that when I'm animating, I can make the hair movements without having to blow up my computer with cloth simulations or hair simulations, and it would just be simple, so I can just rotate the specific parts. After I added the bones for the hair to rotate around, I did the weight painting so I could correctly get the hair to bend in the way it was intended to bend. I decided, since I wanted this to be one of my best rigs, or my best rigged model, I would actually add shoulders so that I could make it shrug or do even more expressions. I think that in this model, this specific one actually ended up really well because even though it was highly detailed, it still has a really surprisingly low poly count and is actually really well topologized. And my other models don't actually have the liberty of being or having a good topology at all. I would like to say it took me an embarrassing amount of time to get the correct weights or assign the correct weights for the fingers, and I would say that was the most annoying part out of this entire video. was getting the fingers correctly weight painted. I also added some shoulder things for the hips so that it can move like actual legs can, because the bone isn't straight, it is actually kind of angled, and it allows you to have more movement in the range. So I wanted to kind of replicate that by just having separate two bones dedicated to that. I would say the thing that took me the very, very longest, that besides the hair, would be the weight painting for the jacket, of getting the shoulders and the arms correct, because I do not very often have models that have connected torsos and arms. I usually make them separate parts, so I don't have to deal with getting the weight paints completely right, but when I do it, it is kind of annoying. And I ended up figuring out much later on that if you added a subdivision surface modifier after the armature modifier, that it would actually get it to bend more naturally and look less blocky when it bent, which I wish I knew earlier. Before I give color to a model, I usually like putting it into a pose first, so whenever I can get to actually giving it shading or textures, I have something that I would want to give what kind of colors to. So for me, I kind of put it in like a semi-energetic kind of happy pose so that the colors would kind of reflect that. And for the shirt, I ended up removing the parts where the shoulder would bend because you can't really see it anyways. Originally, I was going to make a separate material for the inside of the mouth, but it would have taken too long and would have been too time consuming to try and get it perfect like how I usually want to, so I just didn't. And again, I went on to trying to fix the pistons because they were starting to bend weird. And eventually I just searched up a tutorial and I realized instead of using track 2, I could use dampen track and they would still point to each other really nicely. I was going to have some little ball joints for the parts that connected to the arms and the torso, but instead I added a inside part where it would be a sort of like bendy material. After I started just making a material, I just started messing around, see what kind of worked, and I kind of liked the bumpy Voronoi kind of texture that it gave off, and originally it was going to have this faded part where a certain part of the limb would move down and it would fade into it kind of, but it started becoming too complicated there, so I didn't. And I moved on to trying to get a good lighting, and then moved back on to being confused of why the material kind of looks weird, until I realized I could just make the scale all the same, and I just kept messing around seeing what would work with the textures, just kept adding more and more, just until it started looking really, really nice and actually extremely detailed. And I was really proud of myself how I was able to get it very detailed without any tutorials or any outside help, just completely purely on everything that I knew about geometry nodes to get it as detailed as possible. And originally, I was going to make a plaid sweater and actually have like the seams in it, which I've done before, but it was at a larger scale and like less detailed and other things. But this one was incredibly detailed, but it started bending weird where the y-axis was, and I kind of just started ignoring it so that I could just keep adding onto it. And I added a separate material for the hood so that it was a different color and wouldn't be the same color as the sweater itself. And I just kept adding more and more, but I kind of got lost, so I had to search up a tutorial for sun because I didn't want to keep adding suns to the scene. And it was a very good tutorial, and I had to end up changing to cycles when I originally planned for using purely just the Eevee engine because I really liked it. And then I realized I'm using a really bad Mac and I can't get as detailed with the textures, so I had to completely overhaul all of the work that I did. And I went back to using the Eevee render engine and just added more suns and made the sky texture. I still ended up keeping the Voronoi texture, but instead I made it much more stylized, where each of the little blocks it has create different colors. And I was going to do the plaid again, but I just couldn't get it to bend right on the parts that I needed to. So I ended up just not doing that part. And I did end up adding noise texture to make it look a little bit fuzzy for the normal. And for the mouth, my plan was to make it glow a little bit. And I got it working good enough because it wasn't what I necessarily wanted, but it was good. So I just left it there and moved on to the hair, where I made it a gradient texture, where it kind of from a brown, and I would have purple ends at the end of the hair. And I just copied over the textures from the already ones I made, so it was just a simple copy and paste of what I already made and just put it into what the other material is. And going back to the glass, I was originally going to make this glass material, but in Blender 5.0 it seems like the thing that worked really well for the light passing through kind of got changed of how light passes through from 4.5, so I had to just end up going with a stylized kind of look. And I wasn't completely sure if the technique that I used for the rubber hose style eyes was still there, so I ended up just going with the safe option and just creating the eyes itself as a physical mesh, where I could add a shrink wrap modifier onto the part that I'm going to hide and just parent the eyes to the little parts that I already made when rigging. For its material, I just copied over the mouth material and made it just glow. And for the fingers, I just kind of made them purple. I just copied over the hair material and put it at the fingers and changed it a little bit. This is kind of where I figured out that the subdivision surface and armature modifiers do kind of come in handy when you place it right, which is when I was looking at the wireframe view. And I just started organizing everything from there and making sure everything was working right until I started doing new ways of how to make a rig, where you can generate a rig and use the things that that rig makes and add it onto your own, where the custom shapes would be the object of that custom rig. And I will make a tutorial on how to make a better rig later, but first I want to get out a few specific videos. And I color coded my model. It's not the way that most people would color code it. I just used orange for the parts that rotate and green for the parts that don't really move at all, and blue for the parts that you would move. So it's all nicely organized. And after all of that, I'm finished with everything. I hope you enjoyed this video, and this is a little walk cycle that I made for it. I will be posting videos, but they'll just be less often than usual. I have a few projects that I want to reveal, but that'll be a thing for later. It's not far enough in development where I can reveal exactly what it is, but I can tell you that it's going to be a good project. I'll catch you in the next video.